The truth about motor oil that most drivers never learn. Imagine spending tens of thousands of dollars on a vehicle, maintaining it carefully, and still watching the engine slowly wear itself out years earlier than it should. Most drivers believe that engine failure happens because people neglect maintenance. They assume missed oil changes, aggressive driving, or poor manufacturing are the main reasons engines die early. But there is another factor quietly shaping the lifespan of millions of engines every single day. It's sitting on store shelves in auto parts stores and supermarkets, packaged in bright bottles with bold marketing promises. That factor is motor oil. Most drivers think all synthetic oils perform about the same. After all, they meet industry standards, they're approved by manufacturers, and they all claim to protect engines for thousands of miles. But when engines run for hundreds of thousands of miles, the differences between oils become impossible to ignore. To understand this better, imagine a long-term experiment designed to answer one simple question. Does motor oil choice really matter? In this scenario, several identical trucks are used for testing. Each truck has the same engine, the same mileage, and follows the exact same maintenance schedule. They drive the same routes under similar conditions. The only thing that changes is the motor oil used in each engine. Over time, these trucks accumulate enormous mileage while mechanics carefully track oil consumption, engine noise, horsepower, and internal wear using laboratory oil analysis. At the beginning, everything looks nearly identical. Each truck starts out strong. Engines run smoothly, oil consumption stays low, and there are no unusual sounds coming from under the hood. If you were driving these trucks, you would never notice a difference. But inside the engines, microscopic changes are already beginning. Motor oil performs four extremely important jobs inside your engine. First, it lubricates moving parts. Inside every engine, metal components move thousands of times per minute. Pistons slide up and down inside cylinders. Crankshafts spin at high speeds. Camshafts open and close valves with precise timing. Oil forms a thin protective film between these surfaces, preventing metal from grinding directly against metal. Second, oil cleans the engine. Combustion produces carbon deposits, acids, and contaminants. Oil collects these particles and suspends them until they are removed by the oil filter. Third, oil helps cool the engine. While the radiator removes most heat, motor oil carries heat away from pistons, bearings, and other internal components. And fourth, oil helps seal the piston rings inside each cylinder. This sealing keeps compression strong and prevents combustion gases from leaking into the crankcase. When oil performs these jobs effectively, engines can last an incredibly long time. But when oil begins to break down, problems start quietly forming. As the trucks in this long-term test accumulate mileage, the first differences begin appearing in laboratory oil analysis. This analysis measures tiny metal particles circulating in the oil. These particles come from internal engine components slowly wearing down. Iron often comes from cylinder walls and crankshafts. Copper can come from bearings. Aluminum may come from pistons or engine blocks. Higher metal readings usually mean more friction and more internal wear. In some engines, these numbers remain extremely low for a long time. In others, they begin rising earlier than expected. At first, drivers would never notice this change. The engines still feel strong. They start normally. They accelerate smoothly. But the data tells a different story. As mileage climbs, small differences in oil performance begin turning into larger ones. One of the earliest visible symptoms is oil consumption. Over time, piston rings can accumulate carbon deposits that prevent them from sealing tightly against the cylinder walls. When that happens, small amounts of oil slip past the rings and burn inside the combustion chamber. Drivers may begin noticing that they need to add a little oil between oil changes. At first, it's barely noticeable. But in some engines, that consumption gradually increases. Another symptom begins appearing in certain trucks: increased engine noise. Inside a well-lubricated engine, oil cushions moving parts and reduces mechanical noise. When lubrication weakens, metal components begin contacting each other more directly. Valve trains may start ticking slightly. Bearings may develop faint knocking sounds. These noises are often subtle, but mechanics know they can signal growing internal wear. Meanwhile, other engines in the test continue running smoothly with almost no changes. Their oil consumption remains low. Their internal wear readings stay minimal. and their engines remain quiet. The difference comes down to the chemistry of the oil itself. Some motor oils use extremely pure synthetic base stocks engineered at the molecular level. These oils maintain stable viscosity and strong lubrication films even under extreme heat and pressure. Others rely more heavily on refined petroleum with additive packages designed to meet minimum industry requirements. Both oils may perform similarly at first, but over very long distances, the stronger oil maintains its protective properties far longer. Eventually, the differences become dramatic. In one of the test engines using a weaker oil formulation, mechanics remove the valve cover for inspection. What they see is not catastrophic damage, but it isn't ideal either. The internal surfaces are coated with a thin layer of brown varnish. This varnish forms when oil oxidizes and leaves behind residue. While varnish alone doesn't destroy an engine immediately, it signals that the oil has struggled to keep contaminants suspended. Over time, varnish can lead to thicker sludge deposits. Sludge is far more dangerous. It can clog narrow oil passages and prevent lubrication from reaching critical components. Without proper lubrication, camshafts, bearings, and pistons can wear rapidly. In another engine using a stronger oil formulation, mechanics perform the same inspection. This engine looks remarkably clean. Internal metal surfaces appear almost new. Oil passages remain clear. There are very few visible deposits. The difference between these engines is not driving style or maintenance schedules. The difference is the oil itself. As the test continues into extremely high mileage, the gap widens even further. Engines using weaker oils begin showing signs of serious wear. Compression drops in several cylinders. Oil consumption increases significantly. Visible smoke sometimes appears during acceleration. Eventually, some engines begin developing bearing noise, a deep knocking sound that often signals severe internal damage. At this point, the engine may still run, but its lifespan is clearly nearing the end. Mechanics decide to stop the test before catastrophic failure destroys the engine block. When the engine is disassembled, the internal damage becomes obvious. Cylinder walls show heavy scoring marks. Bearings have worn down to their copper layers. Piston rings are stuck with carbon deposits and can no longer maintain proper compression. The engine has essentially worn itself out. But not all engines in the test look like this. One engine using a premium synthetic oil reaches extremely high mileage while still running remarkably well. Oil consumption remains low. Compression stays strong. Horsepower measurements remain close to original factory levels. When this engine is finally disassembled, the results surprise even experienced mechanics. Cylinder walls still show faint crosshatch patterns from the factory machining process. These tiny grooves help retain oil for lubrication. In most engines with very high mileage, these patterns disappear completely due to wear. Seeing them still visible suggests that the oil protected the surfaces extremely well. The piston rings are also in excellent condition. Their grooves remain clean, allowing them to move freely and maintain strong sealing against the cylinder walls. Even the crankshaft bearings look healthy. Instead of deep scoring or copper exposure, they show only minor wear. The